Hello and welcome back to another series of jPlay. I announced it several times in my YouTube channel, and most of the times I did not what I announced, but this time really I want to go for Talisman. Really I'm totally in the mood of playing a session of Talisman, and then I thought, why not just play it for you? So here we are, and yeah, let's have a look what ships in the box, and yeah, let's get started. Again, I have to apologize that I only own the German edition of Talisman, the 4th edition. I think it shouldn't be a problem. The problem is on my side. I have to translate a little bit more, and hopefully you will enjoy it nevertheless. I will play this more or less with a core game, only have 2 expansions right now I will use, and I'm only using that because I like the theme of it. So one is this Bloodmoon expansion with Werewolf, and the other one would be the Sacred Pool, because they're bringing some of these stable cards and so on. And of course they're shipping with a lot of additional event cards basically. So that's what I really like about this game. You can't really, it's so random, you can play it so often, and every time you receive so many different cards. And let's say, even if it's a pretty static and luck-based game, because of these different cards that the Talisman ships with, especially with all the expansions out there, it has a real high amount of replayability. At least this is what I'm thinking. I think I will not explain the rules, at least not really in detail. There are so many rule primer videos out there for Talisman, and I think most of you should already know at least maybe the 1st or the 2nd edition of it, or maybe the 3rd as well. So I will not explain the rules in detail here. The only thing I will do is I think I will now more or less draw 2 characters. So I decided to go for a 2-player game, just to keep the game as fast as possible. It still can take some time and some episodes. So I will explain the characters, and maybe with the characters explain a little bit about the rule or the mechanism of Talisman. But of course I will then explain some deviations that come from the expansions Sacred Pool and Bloodmoon. But this is all, and then I think we can get started pretty soon, and don't lose too much time in looking inside the box and stuff like that. I think everyone should be more or less aware of what can be expected. Okay, so then let's have a look at the cards that comes with the expansions, and then afterwards we will draw our 2 heroes. Let's get started with a look what comes with the Sacred Pool expansion. So for once, these are these 4 neutral alignment cards. So this is something pretty new. I think it was part of the very first version of Talisman, which I used to play when I was a bit younger, I have to admit, but they're not part of the 4th edition, at least not for the core game. I'm not so sure if it was the case for the 2nd edition and so on, but nevertheless in Sacred Pool you can get neutral again. Then of course there are these pretty cool stables cards here, so throughout the game, and they're coming with the new event cards. Not so sure if they're called event cards. I have to check that up, what's the correct English translation for that. But there are these event cards which show then some stables location that will be somewhere here on the field. And then with these stables you are able to acquire yourself a warhorse, a carriage, a mule, something like that, which make the life of the different regions here definitely easier. And another thing is, this is also a pretty cool mechanism, are these quest reward cards here, and these are very unique items or benefits you can get throughout the game. How do you get those? Good that you ask. This will be when you are fulfilling the quest of the sorcerer at the medium region or the middle region. Then normally you get teleported back to the sorcerer here, and then normally you would gain a talisman. But with these quest reward cards in place, you can then choose if you want to have a talisman, or rather to go for a quest reward, and then you just draw the top card of it and can have it and use it. why is that good? Because sometimes, at least when you play the normal game of Talisman, it really can happen that you want to go to the sorcerer twice or 3 times, because of the different quests you can get there. And with this, it makes really sense, because when you already have a talisman and you feel pretty confident that no one is going to steal that from you, then you would be able to gain an additional benefit out of these quest reward cards. So that's pretty cool. Of course, there are also some additional spells that come with the Sacred Pool extension, but this is not really, brings some new flavor to the game. It's nice, but I think not really, game deciding. Now let's have a look what comes with the Blood Moon expansion, and this is pretty cool. For once, there is this cool werewolf figure that comes with it. So the werewolf will move through the night and will try to hunt the characters, and maybe even transform those to werewolves as well. To be honest, getting a werewolf is not really bad. There are of course some conditions where it's not too good to be a werewolf, but at least during night, and I explain that later, you have definitely some nice benefits when being a werewolf. Of course, there also comes this werewolf overview. So what happens when you meet the werewolf? You have to roll a dice and something happens, and so on. When you yourself, or when a hero of you is a werewolf and he defeats another hero, then there might be a chance that this other hero also might be a werewolf. So lots of stuff to do. I also mentioned that some benefits are only valid at night, and this is also a very new mechanism, and I really do like that in this Blood Moon expansion. Is now it's daytime, or oops, let me flip that over, daytime or nighttime. So of course this is the daytime. So this is pretty cool mechanism, because at night there are some downgrades for the monsters that are on the field, and whereas during the night these creatures get stronger by 1. This is really cool stuff. And of course some of the adventure cards that you draw now have some dependency of whether it's day or night and so on. So this is really a pretty cool mechanism for this Blood Moon expansion. Of course there are also some alternative endings, but I decided not to go for any alternative endings for Talisman, because sometimes it really can lengthen the game unnecessarily. So I think this is really, we are going for the standard rules here for the ending of Talisman, so from the core game, and that should be it. Unless someone would want to see some alternative ending, then I can still decide when during gameplay that I will maybe reconsider that. So just ask me and I think we will find a way. Of course, with all these expansions there are several new characters that comes to the game. I think the vampire hunters and so on is some very nice little character that comes with the game. But I shuffled them all in the deck here, so this is something I will really draw at random out of that, and as I explained, I will play a 2-player game of Talisman. Okay, I think then let's just draw our first character. And what do we have here? Oh, why, that's nice. That's an elf. So I have the figure here in a second. So this is the figure for the elf, and the elf has of course a good alignment. He starts with a strength of 3, a talent of 4, so he's a pretty balanced character, at least from the very first start. So he can more or less go in 2 directions. Good thing is with talent 4 he can have a spell, which is good. He starts with 3 of these destiny markers, and this is pretty cool because these destiny markers allow you to re-roll dice, and this of course is a good thing. Every player starts with 1 gold and of course with 4 lives, and he starts at the deep forest here. Or I'm not sure, maybe another translation, dark forest, I'm not sure. Let's go for his special abilities here. So for once in the Dark Forest he does not need to roll a die, but he can decide to do so, but when he does he has to accept the result. The elf can evade creatures and other players when they are in forest locations like this one here, just on top of that, or there are several other ones. And another very cool stuff is, if he is already in a forest, then he can move to another forest field in the same region without rolling a die. And this is really pretty cool ability, and of course he's starting off at the Dark Forest or Deep Forest. Okay, let's equip our hero here. So for one, he gained these 3 fate tokens. It's not destiny, it's fate according to the official rules. Then there are these goals, and neither of the player starts with any objects or any followers here. And also check one, this is not talent, of course in the English word this is craft, and this is strength. So strength of course is for any physical attacks and so on, and the craft is being used for non-physical combats, spirits, ghosts, whatsoever. There are some limits. So for once, each player cannot have more than 4 objects. Of course, there are other objects that allow you to have more objects with you, but this is a core rule. So only 4 objects, and your craft decides on how many spells you are allowed to use. And the elf is pretty lucky here. So with a talent, with a craft value of 4, he would be allowed to have 2 spells on his hand, I would call that. Now let's have a look at what the second character is. Let's have a look, and this is the monk. Okay, that's interesting pair. So he would be the figure for the monk. The monk does not really seem to be very strong. So he only has a strength of 2, a craft of 3. Of course, he has also good alignment, but I think he has a quite powerful ability, and this is here. Your faith is allowing him to add in a physical fight his craft to his strength points. So in a physical fight, he would already have, because he has strength 2 and craft 3, he would have a combined fighting power of 5. Which is pretty cool. Then he has this little other ability. So after a prayer, you can add 1 to your result. You can pray somewhere in a church or something like that. And here's something, a very bad limitation I would call that, where during a fight he's not allowed to use a weapon or an armor. So this is definitely not so good, but he has 5 of these fate tokens, which is also pretty good. I thought the elf was already good equipped with that, but it can be better as we see. And the monk would start in the village. So let's equip him as well. These are 5 destiny tokens, and these are his 1 gold. And let's put him onto the village. And yeah, I think that's basically it. I think I could explain you a little bit more about how the rules are going, but I don't have to really. Just believe me, we get started and I will catch you doing the gameplay. One thing that is important, each play starts at the daytime, so this is something we have to be aware of. And when does it get night, or when does it change? This is pretty simple. So when you move to a field where it said you have to draw an adventure card, then before you do draw the adventure card, you have to flip it to the other side of this card. So whatever, if we now would move to the first location and had to draw an adventure card, then it would be night instantly. Normally the werewolf would start on the forest, but as this is the same starting location as the elf, I have decided to place him to another forest location here, and I think this is just as good. I think he will still encounter the heroes more than enough. So I think now we can get started. I just decided that I will start with the left player, and this would be the elf. And I think we can get started. In this first video, I think I will only make maybe 2 or 3 moves for the game, just to explain and just to show you that. In the next episode, I think I will then really dive into the gameplay. So what have you do? It's basically simple. The starting player now rolls a die. This would be a 5, and now he would be allowed to move 5 spaces in either direction of the game. I think I will move the elf 5 spaces to the left, because he would land then on a forest field. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this forest is pretty easy. It says, okay, you have to draw a card, and as we have to move or have to do that, we have to flip to the nighttime, so any creature is now 1 point stronger than during the day. So we are now at night, and we would be allowed to draw, or we have to draw, an adventure card here. Let's see what we have. Okay, that's a sack of gold, pretty good. So we can exchange this one for a gold coin into our inventory. Awesome. Let's do that. So the elf already has 2 gold coins. And now let's head over to the monk. Okay, let's roll the die for the monk. That's also a 5. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He comes to the hills, and here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He comes to the fields. It really doesn't matter, but I think the monk will decide not to go too near to the werewolf at this point in time, because during night, when you come to the same field as the werewolf, you have to encounter it as well. So let's move up to the hills. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so again we have to flip the daytime nighttime. So it's again daytime, and we have to draw an adventure card. And this says, "Wow, treasure pit." Okay, so now we have to roll 2 dice. We do that, and we have to put the amount of gold coins to this card. Wow, that's a 10. So let me put 10 gold coins onto this card. So these are now 10 gold coins, and every time a player lands on this field, he would be allowed to take up to 2 gold coins from this card. So let me do that. 1, 2. This will go to the inventory of the monk. And this card here stays as long as there is still gold on this card here, and as soon as the last gold is the gold is depleted more or less, then we would have to draw a new adventure card. Well, this was already the turn of the monk. Let's head over to the elf again. Okay, let's roll some die. Okay, that's a 1. The talisman symbol is a 1. And what happens when you roll a 1? You will have to roll also for the werewolf movement. First, of course, we would be allowed to make our movement. So the elf could go here to the graveyard, which is definitely not good for a character with a good alignment, because you would instantly lose a life point. And he could go to this what's the name of this guy here? So I think it's the guardsman, the watchman, or whatever, that will watch the way to the inner middle region here. But still, when you go to this field, you can decide to go on top of it, but then you have to fight this guy, or you can just use it as a normal card here, and then we would have to draw an adventure card, which we will do. But of course, then we will also would need to flip over the daytime or the day card, and it's now night, and let's draw an adventure card. So let's draw a card, and this is a location, and this is the Pantheon. And we would now be putting a good, a bad, a good, and a neutral alignment card on these fields. And every time a player goes there, he can then decide to change his alignment basically, and then would take one of those cards away. And as soon as these are also depleted, then the Pantheon would more or less vanish to the discard pile. But as long as it's there, we don't have to draw any new card here. But now let's roll for the movement of the werewolf. So let's do that. That's a 6. And the active player, which would still be the elf, would be responsible to move the werewolf. So let's do that. So the werewolf is on top of there, but I think he will move the werewolf closer to the monk. So let's do that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So he's now here at this location around the corner, and the monk is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away from him right now. But now it's again the movement of the monk player. Of course, he cannot decide to linger or something like that. So he cannot say, "Oh, we'll stay here and grab more gold." That's not possible. So he really has to move. So that's also a 1. And I think he could go to the chapel here, and I think he will do that because he has this special ability, and still he would be allowed to move the werewolf later on. So let's move the monk to the chapel. If he would be an evil alignment, then he would also lose a life point, but he is not. I think neutral characters can change their alignment for paying a gold. Or yeah, no, sorry. You can heal. Stupid. You can heal your character for one gold point, and you can also, when you are a good character, you can pray, and we do that, and the monk is allowed to add 1 to that result here. So that's a 4, which is pretty good. So from 1 to 4, your prayer will be ignored, but as he is allowed to add 1 to this result, he would end on 5, so he gains an additional life point. Of course, this is pretty good, so he gains this additional life point here. And now, because he moved a 1, he would be allowed to move or he has to move the werewolf. So let's roll for the werewolf movement. So that's a 4, and I think because it's still night, and this would, 1, 2, 3, 4, the werewolf would come directly to him, and it's night, so definitely he has to send him to the other direction, So this would 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let me show that to you. So the werewolf is now here at the hills, where he cannot really do any harm to any player at this point in time. So also the elf has to roll for his movement. That's a 6. Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This would bring him to the deep forest, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 will bring him to the other forest, and I think he will go there. So let's move the elf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So he would come to the forests here. Then we have to flip the nighttime card, so it's now daytime, which is pretty good. And now he would has to draw an adventure card, and this is a robber. This is now interesting. So because it's daytime, the robber has a reduced strength of only 3, which is good. Because the elven is on the forests here, he could evade this robber, but I think they have both the same strength, so I think he will really try to battle this guy. I think the dices are nice, but I decided to go for these smaller dice so I can roll them simultaneously. I think red will be the enemy and the yellow one will be our hero. So it's now pretty simple. I roll the dice and we add our strength to that, and whoever has the highest sum, he basically wins the game. Both have the same strength, 3 because of the daytime effect. So let's just roll the dice here. This is a 5 and a 5, and this is a tie, so nothing happens, but the creature will stay here until defeated. Good thing about defeating these villains, you can collect their their cards as a trophy, and can exchange them later on to upgrade basically your character for that. And that's also pretty easily. You can just as soon as you have a total amount of a strength point here at 7, you can trade them off for another strength point, for example. The same counts for the crafting value here as well. Of course, if you would have only, let's say, have 4 cards and both would have a strength of 4, then you would trade in 8 points of strength, but you don't get any returns. So this is something you have then to decide. You would lose a strength point here. But in this case, nothing really happened. So this concludes the turn of the elven player, and let's head over back to the monk. So let's roll for the monk. That's a 2, and I think this might be dangerous. So there are these cliffs, which is really difficult for him, though this can be something happened. So I think he will play it safe and will 1, 2. Also goes to the field of the guardsman here, of the guard here, because there is already this card here. He could decide to go for an alignment change, but I think he's not going to do that at this point in time. So I think I promised you one or two or two or three moves in this first video. These were three already. At least I could show you one fight already. So I think this is a good starting point. I think I will finish my session for today, and really I promise next time I will dive into the gameplay more deeply and play several more rounds to give you a good understanding of how Talisman, the 4th edition, is looking like and how it feels like. Hope you enjoyed it so far. If you have any questions, if you already found a mistake or whatever, or something I forgot to explain, please let me know in my YouTube channel or in Board Game Geek or wherever. Definitely I would be willing to put that into the account, and yeah, we'll try to answer all the comments that you have. But then, I think, until then, hope to see you soon in my second episode of this gameplay here. And yeah, bye bye.